Hi guys, welcome back. So just a quick tutorial video today on how to set up the Japan 3 attack on India. So by turn 3, launching a massive assault on India. There's a good strategy involving this, which requires this transport to be alive in 1661 by the first round. So this is dead. This is not going to work quite the same way. Obviously, you can still go for India, but when this transport's alive, you can get a really nasty attack going by Japan round 3. Now, I'm not going to take any credit for anything involving this strategy. I'm going purely off a post that Quintin made in the main unofficial Discord server, where he's laid out the steps to doing this strategy, basically, purchase-wise and movement-wise with troops and transports. So I'm just basically putting what he's put in the comment into sort of a video format that people can look at and add this to their repertoire of strategies if they don't really understand this or don't really know it. Because I knew about this idea, this attack idea, but I didn't know the specifics of what to move where and purchases, and so I've learned it recently, and actually I've been having some good success with it on ranked, and I think particularly in the lower ranks this is going to be deadly if you're playing as the Axis, because it's very hard to prevent this from happening. It's very hard to defend India as the Allied player unless you know what's coming and you prepare for it, which normally means bringing in some, not only obviously all the fighters in the nearby area with the Allies, but also probably some Russian troops as well to ensure this holds, because it's a pretty devastating attack that the Japanese can set up by round 3. So I won't be looking at any of the actual the fleet movement, because obviously the fleets are going to be moved in different ways in different games. There's not going to be one set rule for moving the fighters and the battleships, etc. So I'll purely be focusing on the transport movement and also your purchases up until round 3. They're the key points, basically. Okay, so let's jump in. Right, now I will say, if you want to go for the optimal, or like the most attackers possible on India by round 3, then you would have to skip Pearl Harbor Light, because you can use this cruiser bombardment, also this fighter in the battle as well. But I would still recommend going for Pearl Harbor, because even without these extra 2 attackers, you can still launch a really heavy assault in India. So I think it's more important to slow the Americans down while you're trying this as well. So I would still recommend Pearl Harbor Light, but if you wanted to go all in and just go crazy, then yeah, but you don't have to do Pearl Harbor. Just pull these guys back, and you can use them in the fight later on. So, purchase-wise, for round 1, obviously we've still got 2 transports, so we need 4 as the Japanese. That's the key number to hit, because we can ship all the units out of Japan each round. So we'll be going for 2 transports, 2 infantry, 1 artillery, 1 tank. So, combat move, round 1 for Japan. The main points, again, I'm not going to focus entirely on the fleets or anything like that. It doesn't really matter. What we're going to focus on, obviously, the transport movement and a couple of and where to place your troops, essentially. So we'll be going for Anhwei. And yuunan is key. So with the transport you have in 60, artillery, infantry, yuunan, and the one by Shanghai, 2 infantry, and into yuunan as well. An important thing to note is you have to leave the troops in the Philippines there. They can't be picked up in round 1, because we're going to be picking them up next round. And the same with the tank as well. We'll be picking the tank up in round 2, so leave the tank there. That's quite important. Okay, so we're back after the non-com for Japan 1. So our main stack is in Yunan. We took 2 infantry hits on the way in, unfortunately, so we're going to be short 2 infantry, but that happens. We've also moved our infantry up to Thailand, with the idea being we're going to ship everything into Burma next round, so we want all available attackers there. Now it's also important to note, you need to deploy at least 1 transport in Zone 60, because we'll be picking up the troops from the Philippines in round 2, and if they're both in 62, you can't do that. So we need to have at least 1 in 60, so you can go 1, drop them off into Burma, 2 moves. So that's fine. Apart from that, deploy your troops. Okay, Japan 2 purchases. So at this stage, I like to go for a bomber, because we are going to go for attack next round. So any extra attackers is going to be useful. So potentially here, if you really wanted to, if you felt like you were a bit low on numbers or they were defending particularly well, you could even go for 2 bombers here, which may be an idea. Or there's potential here also to go for a Victory City snipe by round 4 and try and win the game by round 4. Because if Germany can control Karelia, Germany, France and Italy, and the Japanese can grab India by round 3, then by round 4, if you can grab Hawaii, you could potentially win the game. But that depends largely on the Americans. If they've got presence in the Pacific, this may not be possible. But if it's open, then I think you should probably go for it and try and close the game out early. So in that case, we'll be playing for that. I'll just do that as an example. So we'll go for a tank, infantry, and a transport, just to kind of go for that. Okay, round 2 combat for Japan. I won't go over too many options here. I'll just note the most important points of this round for Japanese. You need to leave at least 2 infantry in Anhwei, because we'll be moving 2 in the non-combat phase onto the coastline. So because they're going to be picked up for the attack in round 3 by one of these transports. The rest of the ground troops are going to go into Burma. So we're grabbing one of the transports in Zone 60, picking up the Philippines troops into Burma, and also the artillery, not the tanks, the artillery and 1 infantry into Burma as well. So that should be it for the main combat moves for this round. So this is the board after Japan are mobilised in round 2. Obviously you can see all our troops are in nice positions now. All these other units will be in the fight in India for round 3. We'll be grabbing more infantry from East Indies as well. So it's now really up to the Allies to see if they can defend or not. So Japan 3, the big round. Now I've been controlling all the nations in this particular example. I've done 3 infantry per turn into India. I pulled Russian fighters and tanks to defend this. And all the available fighters that were nearby, so the 2 fighters from the fleet, the 2 starting fighters around here for the UK as well have gone into the defence, as well as a bomber, and also the African tank. So at this stage Japan still has odds, and it just shows the power of this attack really. Even with all these defenders sitting in India, the Japanese have still got odds to take this. Now obviously the defence of India will vary greatly depending on the level of the person you're up against. But I would imagine in the lower levels it won't have this kind of defence, because I made sure that the tanks were sitting in caucuses to reinforce this, obviously, plus the fighters. If you're playing a lower level player, it's unlikely that they'd have the Russian troops there as well. So I would imagine in the lower levels it's far more likely that India will be vulnerable at this stage. Because to defend it, you do really need to commit to defending it. It does require a lot of units to defend, given how many the Japanese have been able to bring into the fight by round 3. So purchases for round 3, it's largely up to you, depending on how the game's going really. You may want a complex in Manchuria at this point. I'm hoping obviously to take India, but then also to keep the pressure maximised on Moscow. So you could have the complex here in India, complex in Manchuria, plus the 8 from in Japan each round. Obviously you still probably go for the Hawaii attack as well if it's possible. If not, then maybe just keep shipping things into the mainland. But yeah, it's really up to you from this point. It's too varied to talk about all the potential options really. But yeah, just play it how your particular game's going. So that's it really. That's the setup. So I'll quickly skip. So I'll just show you all the infantry we can pull into this one. So 2 transports, obviously filled up with 4 infantry. We'll grab our East Indies guys as well, throw them into the mix. Everything from Burma, blitz through the tanks, all the fighters, all the bombers. Obviously don't bomb the complex, make sure you actually attack it. 2 bombardments, extra fighters. So we've got 29 units going into the fight here, which is pretty crazy. Yes, there we go. That's the Japan 3 attack on India and how to set it up. I really hope that's going to be helpful for some people. I would imagine in the lower levels, particularly in the lower ranks, this is going to be super effective. So if you ever find yourself in a situation where you have this transport free, I would recommend going for this, because it's going to be, against a less experienced player, it's going to be, pretty devastating. So there we go. Hope that's been useful for some people. Enjoy, and good luck in the battles. Take care.